the question. So hypothalamus, we know like in the base of the brain, if you observe, we have like base of the brain is resting in the cranial cavity, anterior, middle, and posterior cranial fossa. So in the middle cranial fossa, we have sella turcica, where pituitary gland is resting. Just above the pituitary gland, we have the hypothalamus, isn't it? So that's how you can trace the hypothalamus. Okay. So just below and behind the hypothalamus, we have thalamus. So hypothalamus, basically when you talk about the hypothalamus, it is a structure which you see in diencephalon. What is diencephalon? The deeper areas of the forebrain, that is actually called as diencephalon, isn't it? So in the diencephalon, we get thalamus, metathalamus, and hypothalamus, isn't it? So this is an area which is the deep part of the forebrain, where you have all specialized collection of the gray matter in the form of nuclei. Okay, that is nothing but the cell bodies. So basically, when you start with hypothalamus, you should know. See, a stalk of pituitary gland is shown here. We are seeing anterior and posterior lobes of pituitary to just show like above the area what we have is hypothalamus. So in this hypothalamus, I want you to memorize these group of nuclei. Okay. So what are the various group of, one is shown in pink color, that is anterior group of nucleus. Then in blue, we have middle group of nucleus, and posterior, it is shown in brown color. Okay. So all these group of nuclei, you should and must by heart all these names. Okay. Anterior preoptic, paraventricular, and also like middle we have dorsomedial, posterior we have posterior. This is all about memory only, but everybody, whoever is reading has to memorize. Okay. So there is nothing like, it's not something like concept which we can remember. You can frame your own mnemonics like PAS, okay, something like DAVL, something PM. So and just try to remember the sequence. Order is up to you, but all nuclei you should remember. Now, after remembering the nuclei, we should know the connections. So in the connections, we have afferent connections and efferent connections. So afferent connections are coming towards hypothalamus. Here I actually remember giving you one code. Anybody remembers the code what I gave you when I was giving you this lesson previously? Ritika, Chavi, Mad. Okay. So laugh guitar beta. LAHF. Laugh GTRR. Laugh guitar is the code. You can make a note. It will help us to remember easily. So we have limbic cortex, hippocampus, amygdala, frontal cortex, globus pallidus, thalamus, reticular formation, and retina. So these are afferents. Efferents are, that means from the hypothalamus, the fibers are going to this. Here also we have a code to remember easily. We have RAM PDF, RAM, then we have PDF. Okay. So R is standing for reticular formation, anterior nucleus of thalamus and midbrain, posterior pituitary, frontal cortex, and also medial nucleus of thalamus. Okay, beta. So once you know these connections, basically, if you remember, when we were doing endocrine system, I told you the very first releasing hormones are actually coming from hypothalamus. The releasing hormones will go and stimulate anterior pituitary. The anterior pituitary will start releasing the, which hormones are coming from anterior pituitary? Stimulating hormones. Okay. For example, adrenocorticotropic releasing hormone that comes from hypothalamus, whereas ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, it comes from the pituitary, anterior pituitary gland. So not only that, the synthesis of posterior pituitary hormones. What are the posterior pituitary hormones we have? Antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. Actually, between the pituitary gland and hypothalamus, we have porta cable system. That means we have network of the capillaries which are connecting in the hypothalamus and which are connecting in the pituitary. So through these capillary network, you will see the hormones which are actually synthesized in the posterior pituitary, they are transported to the, actually it is synthesized in the supraventricular and paraoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus, they are actually transported to the posterior pituitary through hypothalamo-hypophyseal tract. Okay, so that is this we will discuss again when we are actually, I think I have told you also. Now, control of anterior pituitary. All releasing hormones are coming from here, beta. Growth hormone, releasing peptide, growth hormone, inhibiting hormone, paratropic releasing hormone, corticotrophin releasing hormone, gonadotrophin releasing hormone, prolactin inhibiting. All these are the releasing and inhibiting hormones which are coming from the hypothalamus, in turn controlling the anterior pituitary for the release of respective hormones from anterior pituitary. Okay. Then adrenal cortex, ACTH. This is anterior pituitary regulates by the release of this, but adrenocorticotropic releasing hormone actually comes from the hypothalamus. Okay. So even adrenal medulla is also under the control of hypothalamus. Then regulation of autonomic nervous system. Hypothalamus controls this by posterior and lateral nuclei of hypothalamus. See, for this, you can actually remember this table better. This will help you. This is something like a summary. You need to elaborate it in your own words. The elaboration part is possible only when you go through at least once under each heading what is given. Okay, control of anterior pituitary. We know releasing and inhibiting hormones. I told you the names in detail. Here, it just a list is given which you have to just memorize and write. Okay. Then secretion of posterior pituitary hormones, control of adrenal cortex, control of adrenal medulla, all this regulation of heart rate. Then suppose it is both helpful in acceleration when posterior and lateral nuclei are involved in, if the information is coming from here, and inhibition is from preoptic and anterior nuclei. It regulates the blood pressure, it regulates the body temperature. Heat loss and heat gain centers are situated in brain, summer and winter, vasoconstriction, vasodilatation. Then we have hunger and feed intake, that is feeding center and satiety center. Okay. Then regulation of water intake, thirst and water retention by ADH. Regulation of sleep and wakefulness, regulation of behavior and emotions, sexual functions and response to smell, and circadian rhythm. See, we always maintain, so even though we don't keep an alarm, definitely if you have college, you will get up at the normal time. So that means that 24-hour cycle, what is taking place is nothing but circadian rhythm. So in this, among all these, regulation of hunger and food intake can itself come as a 5 marks question. So for this, you have to do this flowchart. So suppose whenever we are taking food, our blood glucose levels are increasing. We have in the brain 2 centers. In the brainstem, we have a hunger center and satiety center. So whenever satiety center is stimulated, we feel satisfaction. Yes, enough, I ate enough, I can't eat anymore. That center is satiety center. So inhibition of feeding center and stoppage of food intake. After 3 hours, again, when blood glucose levels fall, so there is no more stimulation of satiety center, then you will see our hunger center is stimulated and you will see we feel hungry and we start eating. Okay, that is increase in appetite. So that is about this, you have to elaborate when you are doing. Please remember, regulation of hunger and food intake is itself, it comes under 5 marks. Okay, read like it has been given in details. So read once, many mechanisms have been explained here. Then regulation of water balance is also equally important. It itself may come as a 5 marker or 3 marker. So thirst mechanism, whenever we are thirsty, actually in the hypothalamus, we have some phosphoreceptors. Okay, whenever they are stimulated, what happens? We feel thirsty and we start drinking water. We also know like ADH is a hormone which is actually synthesized in the hypothalamus and transported to the posterior pituitary. We know its work like it is helping in the reabsorption of water from renal tubules, that is PCT, Henle's loop and DCT. Okay. Sleep and wakefulness is under hypothalamus, emotional changes, everything, punishment, reward, award center, sexual function. So what is diabetes insipidus, beta? I'm just hiding the answer so that if you can answer me. What is diabetes insipidus? Chavi? Imad?
Diabetes due to improper secretion of ADH or vasopressin.
Yeah, very good. So what happens if there is inadequate secretion of ADH or vasopressin? How does
There
it
is
affect?
less water reabsorption
Yeah,
and there is more water diuresis.
very good. So water, like urine, which is passing out in the form of urine, is as clear as water. Tasteless urine, it is called as the disease. That is diabetes insipidus. Whereas deficiency of insulin is,
Diabetes mellitus.
yeah. There will be a question like, what is the difference between diabetes mellitus and insipidus? ADH deficiency is insipidus and insulin deficiency is mellitus. Okay, Vita? So that is, we have in the applied physiology, all the various metabolisms, carbohydrate, fat, lipid metabolisms, everything is disturbed. Then there may be diabetes insipidus. Okay. So there is a dystrophia adiposogenitalis characterized by obesity, and so the sexual infantilism, that means external genitalia growth is retarded. Okay. So there may be a syndrome called as Kalman syndrome, which is characterized by again hypogonadism and loss of smell or decreased in olfactory power. Okay, this is hypogonadotrophic hypogonadism. Okay, because of the deficiency of the release of releasing hormones. Okay, gonadotropin releasing hormones from the hypothalamus. There is one more condition called as Lawrence Moon Beadle syndrome. Now you should focus on everything because the clinical framing of question will be there. So here it is characterized by moon face, obesity, the duct like polydactylism in the sense we have extra fingers and toes, mental retardation, and hypogenetism. Then we have narcolepsy where the sleep pattern is disturbed. Suddenly there may be uncontrollable sleep. Okay, sleep may resemble normal sleep also. Then cataplexy is uncontrollable outbursts of emotions. Okay, like fear, anger, excitement. That is. So that is all about hypothalamus, but it's very important essay question. This Sunday, please write paper 2 physiology. I will choose which paper. Whatever we have done till today, I can give you any one. And both of you have done well better. Ritika and Imad, I appreciate. Then give an account. Growth hormone, I think, Chavi, only I'm worried about you because Ritika and Imad are my regular students. You have been little absent, no? Do you want me to tell, or were you present when I discussed this? Are you there, Chavi? Okay, beta. So, Ritika, Chavi, Imad, should I revise once, beta, or we will move to next answer, no?
Which one, ma'am?
Growth hormone, beta. Growth
Ma'am
hormone.
will once revise.
Okay, fine, nice, very good. If you tell me like this, even I will get encouragement. Okay. Okay. Growth hormone, what is the source, beta?
From the from the
Anterior pituitary.
Anterior
anterior
pituitary.
pituitary.
Okay, very good. Chemically, what is it made up of, beta? Meanwhile, I'll keep asking questions so that you will think over. Is it protein hormone? Is it lipid hormone? Hmm? Or is it lipoprotein?
Protein hormone
It's a protein hormone. Very good. What is the basic function it does?
for growth, for stimulation of growth centers of bones.
Only bones or anything else? Everything in our, every cell in our body, beta?
All the cells in our body.
Okay. Okay. What is the mode of action of generally protein hormones, beta? Because this picture, this mechanism of action of hormones we have discussed in biochemistry also, isn't it? Again and again, if we revise, you will remember more. See here. Now we are talking about protein hormones like growth hormone. No? So suppose this is target cell, bone cell, for example, if it is growth hormone. So this will have receptors on the cell membrane. These receptors will go inside the cytoplasm, and in the cytoplasm also they will have receptors, and in the nucleus also So finally, it reaches inside the nucleus and it will help in the transcription and translation. No, that means it helps in protein synthesis. Okay, because as you're telling, it is the mechanism of growth. Excuse me. Growth in the sense, if muscle is growing, bone is growing, hair is growing, anything which is growing, it's nothing but protein only, isn't it? So that's how it is helping in the protein synthesis. Now let us go systematically. Pituitary gland. So one of the most important, basically when you go to pituitary gland question, we will be asked like this one. First of all, we have to list out the hormones coming from anterior pituitary and posterior pituitary. So this is the list. From anterior pituitary, we have growth hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, adrenocorticotropic hormone, follicle stimulating, luteinizing, and prolactin. Posterior pituitary, we have antidiuretic hormone and oxytocin. Okay, beta? Now, once you give this list, then give the details of growth hormone. What are the headings? I asked you to remember all metabolism, protein, fat, and lipid metabolisms. Okay. See here. This is all about anterior pituitary, also called as adenohypophysis. Okay, so it has pars distalis, pars tuberalis, and pars intermedia. These are the parts we have. Now, histology, it has chromophil and chromophobe cells. Chromophobe means inactive cells, beta. Chromophil cells are active cells. In this also we have acidophils and basophils. Please remember this. Somatotropes are the specialized types of cells which are releasing growth hormone. Okay. Then regulation, we know from the hypothalamus we have releasing hormones. No? So growth hormone, releasing hormone basically comes from hypothalamus. So whenever it goes and stimulates the anterior pituitary, then you will see the somatotropes will get stimulated and they will start secreting the growth hormone. Okay. So we also have just now studied hypothalamus, which is also releasing growth hormone, releasing peptide, inhibitory hormone, thyroid releasing, all these are there. Okay. So this is again list is given. Now tropic, what is the meaning of tropic hormone? That means
Growth stimulating.
Growth stimulating. That means they stimulate like the same area they are released and they will show their effect. Like growth hormone also stimulates secretory activity of liver and other tissues. Okay. So first 5 hormones of this, like growth hormone, thyroid, adenotropic, they are just going and suppose luteinizing hormone is there. It goes and stimulates the mammary gland for the production of milk. No? And also it helps in the contraction of uterus also, like that. So now we will discuss in detail about growth hormone. So source is somatotropes. Chemistry, as you said, it's a protein hormone. So that means it is made up of polypeptide chain containing 191 amino acids. Give a small, like this information, its molecular weight is 21,500. Okay. So growth hormone concentration in blood is 300 grams. And then coming to transport, it is transported in blood by growth hormone binding. Just now I have told you, no, like once it is released into the blood, in the blood it is binding with plasma proteins. So once it is binding with the plasma proteins, it is moving to target cells. And with the target cells on the surface membrane, we have receptors with the help of which it will be moving into the cytoplasm, from the cytoplasm into the nucleus. And once it enters into the nucleus, it helps in transcription and translation. Translation, finally, protein synthesis. Okay, beta? That is. So suppose if, what is the half-life of this hormone? It is 20 minutes. Okay, then growth hormone is specially released during sleep. That's the reason you see small children sleep a lot. And a study has been done when we count during the deep sleep, especially which sleep better? We have 2 types of sleeps. No, can you tell me what are the 2 types of sleeps, Ritika?
REM and NREM.
Very good. REM is sleep with dreams. No? NREM is sleep without dreams. Rapid eye movement, non-rapid. And during sleep cycle of REM, rapid eye movement, sleep, generally we see the release of this growth hormone beta. Okay. Now you have to choose the headings like protein metabolism, carbohydrate metabolism, and fat metabolism. How does it affect? Now, growth hormone increases the synthesis of proteins. We know this, it's the universal fact because all bodybuilding activity is controlled by growth hormone. And protein metabolism, you just go in reverse direction with it. It promotes replication, it promotes transcription, it promotes translation. Okay, all these are just elaborated here: increasing RNA, increasing transcription, decreasing breakdown of protein, promoting building up of protein, that is anabolism of protein. Then the effect on fat metabolism, it mobilizes fat from the adipose tissue so that concentration of fatty acids increases in the body fluids. So actually these fatty acids are used for the production of energy. What is the difficulty if fats are utilized for the production of energy? Ritika Imad, can you please answer? Ritika, do you remember, beta, if more fats are utilized, it will lead to ketosis, no? Ketonemia, ketonuria, isn't it, beta? So
Yes,
that is the drawback. So why it is sparing proteins? Because proteins can also be utilized for the production of ATP. Carbohydrates also can be utilized for the production of ATP. Fats also can be utilized for the production of ATP. But proteins are spared anabolic effect. Body building has to be done from there. So the source of ATP, now fats are being utilized. But a little, suppose if growth hormone is very much released in excess amount, then it may lead to something like ketoacidosis, ketonemia, ketonuria, fatty liver, and all these are complications. As long as normally if it is released, we do not have all these things. It helps only to give more ATP from the breakdown of fats. So now on carbohydrate metabolism, so it is acting like a conservation of glucose. That means it is not allowing like glucose to be utilized more, decreases peripheral utilization of glucose. So finally, what is it understood better? Neither proteins are being broken down nor carbohydrates are being broken down for the production of energy. The chief source of energy here is fats. The fats are being mobilized and ATP is being produced. Isn't it? If you remember me telling, like all the hormones in our body have the tendency to increase blood glucose, isn't it? Except which hormone which has tendency to reduce blood glucose? All are diabetogenic.
insulin.
Very good. Except insulin. All other hormones, they are diabetogenic. Okay, beta? Then, so the diabetogenic effect of growth hormone also we can see. Because if it is released in excess, then you will see the blood glucose levels will increase because it will not allow the utilization of glucose by the tissues. Okay, that is. On bones, what does it do? So it helps in the bone growth, no? Beta. So growth hormone, what are the parts of growing bone, beta? Can anybody tell me?
Parts of growing bone.
Yeah.
Diaphysis, epiphysis, and metaphysis.
Very good. Diaphysis in the center, then epiphyseal plates
Epiphysis on either side.
On the either side. Very good. And the junction of diaphysis and epiphysis is metaphysis. Isn't it? So as long as epiphyseal cartilage is present in the growing bone, the bone will grow in length. Okay. Once the epiphyseal cartilage is ossified, then the bone can no more grow in length. Okay. So growth hormone will be actually increasing the synthesis of deposition of proteins by chondrocytes and osteogenic cells. These are bone forming cells. Okay. So once the fusion is over, then it will not allow. So as long as normal mechanism, normal release of growth hormone is there, person will not suffer with any disease. But after the fusion of epiphyseal cartilages, still if growth hormone is continuing to be released more, then the bone, instead of growing in length, it will start growing in width. Okay. So if it is growing in width, then it will lead to a condition called as acromegaly. Isn't it, beta? Acromegaly. So you will have all jaw bones are enlarged and everything. So that is on bones. It is helping in the like. Suppose if the growth hormone is just a minute. Suppose if growth hormone is released excess during infancy and childhood, then before the fusion of epiphyseal cartilages, still if you are finding the growth hormone is still remaining high even after puberty, then it will lead to gigantism. Okay. So that is the person will grow tall. After the fusion of epiphyseal cartilage, then it leads to acromegaly. So mode of action, see, it is actually combining with a local hormone like substance which is called as somatomedin. So which is actually released from the liver. Okay. So it's a substance through which growth hormone acts, that is somatomedin, which is also a polypeptide. Molecular weight is 7,500. So just name them. What are the various insulin like growth factor 1, insulin like growth factor 2. Okay. So this is, both of these hormones will help in effective functioning of growth hormone. So regulation, better you follow this flow chart, better it becomes easy. So in this flow chart, what are we finding? See, in case of hypoglycemia, fasting, starvation, exercise, stress and trauma, these are the stimulating factors for the hypothalamus for the release of growth hormone, releasing hormone. It goes and stimulates anterior pituitary. Anterior pituitary starts releasing growth hormone. Then growth hormone will go and stimulate liver for the release of this somatomedin. Now growth hormone, somatomedin will work together to show the effects of growth on the tissues. Once the growth hormone level is adequate in the blood, then you will see the feedback signals will go to stop the release of growth hormone by the release of these growth hormone inhibitory hormone. Once it comes, it stops the release of growth hormone. Okay. Stimulatory hormones are two beta hormone, growth hormone releasing hormone and growth hormone releasing peptide coming from hypothalamus. But stopping hormone is growth hormone inhibitory hormone. So this is regulation. Once you know the regulation, just give this gigantism, and gigantism is quite simple, everybody knows. Okay, before the fusion of epiphyseal cartilage, if growth hormone levels are increased, person will keep growing tall. Okay, that is gigantism. After the fusion of epiphyseal cartilage, if growth hormone is increased in the blood, then you will see the bone will increase in width. That is acromegaly, gorilla-like face. Okay, so this see forehead becomes big. Okay, shoulder also becomes more big, and you see the size of the phalanges. They also become very much tall, stout. Okay, so that type of disease. Cushing's disease is the cancer of adenohypophysis, which causes the increase. That means anterior pituitary only, which because of the increase in the secretion of adenotropic hormone. So, do you remember we also have Cushing's disease discussed with adrenal gland? So, like that, Cushing's disease. Suppose if the reason is because of the cancer of this anterior pituitary, then it is called as Cushing's disease instead of Cushing syndrome. Okay, that is again Cushing syndrome we will discuss in detail when we are doing adrenal gland. Okay, moon face will be there, purple stripe, pod belly, limbs will be very thin, body will be very stout. Okay, and there will be increased blood glucose levels because of the glucocorticoids. That condition is Cushing syndrome. I will discuss much in detail when this question comes. Okay, that is. Dwarfism also we have discussed. Acromeria characterized by atrophy of extremities of the body. Okay. What is atrophy?
Yes, ma'am.
Shrinking. shrinking, isn't it? Of hands and feet.
Yes.
Okay. Then Simon's disease, it's a rare pituitary disease. Pituitary cachexia. What do you mean by cachexia? There is like, especially this word is used for cancers where there is heavy weight loss. The person becomes very much skinny. Okay, that is senile decay. So that much you remember, that is enough, more than enough, Peter.
Okay.
Yeah. Refractory errors. Do you want me to repeat once, Imad? Ritika?
No, ma'am, it is okay. Hypermyopia, hypermetropia,
Astigmatism, presbyopia. 4 conditions.
astigmatism. Yes, ma'am.
Ritika, is that all right, beta? Can I switch to next question? Chavi?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So then,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, no problem. So epicritic touch, this I will go with, and sensation and label. Okay. Epicritic touch, it is nothing but the ascending tracts. What are the sensory pathways we have, beta? Imad?
Ascending pathways.
Yeah.
Ascending pathways consists of dorsal column, medium lemniscus, and the anterolateral system.
Okay. Can you name the tracts, beta? Ascending tracts.
Ascending tracts.
Always you should start with spino, because ascending, no, it gives you a hint. Spinothalamic, no, anterior
Yes, ma'am.
spinothalamic, lateral spinothalamic. It becomes easy for you to remember. Okay. So now epicritic touch. So your epicritic touch is nothing but something like a crude touch. These are ascending tracts. See here, beta, here we have ascending tracts. Now the question has come for 5 marks. Basically it comes as 15 marks only. So as Imad is telling us, we have anterior white column, lateral white column, and posterior white column. So in the anterior white column of spinal cord, we have anterior spinothalamic, and lateral we have lateral. Both are very important. We will see the tracts, how they, again I will revise. Just see the function. It helps in crude touch. Okay, which tract? Anterior spinothalamic tract. Okay, so now let us go with the pathway. You will understand it very nicely. The anterior spinothalamic tract. See the location, sending this one, blue one, anterior. Location is in front, anterior column, anterior spinothalamic tract. Now just see. So the red one, whatever we are finding, this red line is showing the, you can see the labeling somewhere, it will, yeah, anterior spinothalamic tract. This tract is concerned with the perception of touch. Okay, see here. So the perception starts in the skin. In the skin we have cutaneous receptors, no, nerve endings, special nerve endings called as Pacinian corpuscles. So from here the information is going to the spinal cord. Okay, so that is dorsal root ganglion, then it is going to posterior horn. Here you will see the first synapse, then you will see the second order neuron coming. It passes upwards through brainstem, forming a bundle, that is the spinal lemniscus. It passes through medulla, pons, midbrain, then finally it will enter into the thalamus. Again it relays there, the next order neurons will come. From there you will see the final order neurons will be going to sensory cortex. The name of these fibers are thalamocortical fibers. So this is the one which is given in short. You can just elaborate the table which is given here, but just know what you have seen. Only one you just elaborate, that is the anterior spinothalamic tract. Yes, this one starts with deep sensory nucleus, okay, crossing in the spinal cord. It was not in straight, but it has moved to the opposite side. So termination, where does it end? In the thalamus. So in thalamus also we have many nuclei, just now as we have seen with the hypothalamus. Okay, ventral posterolateral nucleus of the thalamus, it is concerned with the crude touch sensation. Okay, so that is all about the epicritic touch sensation, you have to elaborate this. In fact, one more chapter is given where you can see the trigeminal nerve. If you remember, do you remember we have ophthalmic, maxillary and mandibular subdivision of trigeminal, which will be collecting the pain sensation from the face region? Time is less
Yes,
than
ma'am.
1 minute. I will again send the link, beta. See here also you will get this word, epicritic sensation. Okay, mild